Taking the coil pack off the engine, you've inspected it, you make sure there's no rust under here, make sure your wire's not cracked, it's in good condition, you got a good contact to your spark plug, and you figured out that this is not your problem, or you bought a new one, and you want to install it. So what we're going to do is go ahead and install it. So in this particular model, we took out the two bolts that held it in, and we're going to use the same two bolts to put the coil pack back on. So a little trick that I want to show you is to make sure that your magnets aren't too close to your flywheel and they aren't too far apart. On most engines, this works great with these smaller type 2 strokes. It works great for chainsaws, it works great for blowers. So the trick is you take a piece of paper, it'll be about this big, doesn't really matter. Make sure it's a regular piece of paper, not an index card or something. And take a piece of paper, fold it in half, and then fold it in half again. So your actual thickness is going to be four pieces of paper thick. And then take a piece of paper and put it right over the magnets on the flywheel, like so. After you've done that, take your coil pack and place it over the magnets in the proper position, how it came off of, and stick it right on there to the magnets. Make sure it's stuck right there, and it'll move with the flywheel if it's stuck to the magnet. With the paper on there, line up your holes, reinstall your screws. In this particular model, I'm going to reinstall my ground wire with this little piece of metal on here. I was hand tightening a little bit getting started. I'm going to go ahead, use your T27. You go ahead and tighten those right up, both of them. You can go right ahead and just tighten those good and snug. You want them to be fairly tight, but not too tight because you don't want to strip the aluminum. Make sure they're good and snug. Alright, then what you can do is just turn your flywheel, grab that paper and pull it out as you turn the flywheel. Watch out, it can bite you. Take paper, you don't really need it anymore. And now, what you can test is you spin your flywheel, and as you come around, you can see in between the magnets that they have a little tiny space. That's 4 pieces of paper thick, which is just about the right amount of space so you can feel the lag when the magnets run across each other, kind of like get stuck. They're not touching, but just the magnetic force actually pulls the magnets together, but they're not touching. So it's a great way, rather than going out and buying a tool to set your coil pack, you can just use a regular piece of paper, and it works awesome. I've had absolutely no problem with it. So once you reinstalled it, you take your other, you want to call it the positive side, reattach it, make sure these are good and snug so they don't fall off and whipping the trimmer around, especially if it's a chainsaw. There's a lot of vibrations in the chainsaw and in the trimmer unit. So there you go. You have your coil packs back on. We've set the right amount of spacing from the flywheel. One other tip, if there's any rust on these magnets in the flywheel, you can also use a fine grade, like a 600 or a 800 grit sandpaper to just lightly sand those magnets off, get that top rust off, and you should be good to go. One other thing I want to point out is the wiring that comes down through the body of this particular unit and comes up here to the on and off switch. When you put this unit back together with the plastics, and you put all the plastic units back together, you want to make sure you don't pinch these wires down in here. There's a little like groove that these run down in here. I know chainsaws have them because they have wires running through them, obviously. In other hedge trimming units, they have different wiring, specs and on how they're set up, and different on and off switches. So you want to make sure you don't pinch those wires in there on any unit when you put them back together. And also, you want to make sure that up here your connections to your switch are all good. Your wires aren't starting to crack, and your wires aren't separating from the switch connector. Also, if you've done all this and you can't figure it out why the engine's not starting for some reason, what you can do is get a new switch. There's different switches you can buy out there. You can probably just find a new one like this at AutoZone or something like that. Replace it with a car switch if you want to do that. But I have found that sometimes you can do all these tests up here on the main engine. You're getting spark, you're getting this and that. The only thing, it's not working is because your switch is jumped. So that's one thing to take a look at. Runs the no column problem. The fuel and the ethanol is not hurting the coil pack because there's no fuel that comes in contact with the coil pack or any of the wiring, so you don't have to worry about fuel issues with the coil pack. But depending on where you store your unit, if it's outside in a unheated garage, that can sometimes affect the weatheredness of the rubber. But there's nothing you can really do about that. I don't have a heated shed. All my stuff stays out in the cold during the winter. I winterize my stuff before I put it away, but there's nothing I can really do about the coldness of the rubber. So every few years I replace my coil packs. But other than that, I just kind of run it and hopefully my rubber stays intact while I operate the machine. But so that's about the coil pack. In the next video, I'm gonna go over a little bit about what we can do for the maintenance in the piston and the cylinder head and stuff like that.